Welcome back to our channel. Today, we present to you some of the worst vehicles ever produced. Number 1. 1973 to 1981 Reliant Robin. It's not the problem of the modern day, but a couple of decades ago, for an unknown reason, cars with 3 wheels were taxed less than cars with 4. This fact sparked an industry of small manufacturers building 3-wheel cars. The most famous of them was Reliant. The issue with a 3-wheeled vehicle with one center-mounted front wheel that controls the steering is that any sharp turn can lead to a rollover. What were they thinking? Something about taxes, I suppose. The fact it was made of fiberglass and nicknamed Plastic Pig reveals the other side of Robin's problems. Number 2. 1971 to 1980 Ford Pinto. It's strange to hear about Ford that way, but Pinto used to compete for the title of the worst American car ever produced. Although it became the best-selling subcompact car in the US at the time, with over 3 million units sold during its production run, the Pinto had an awful design which resulted in many tragic outcomes. As many as 180 burn deaths were reported because Pinto's fuel tank burst into flames when involved in a rear-end collision. Pinto's fuel tanks were positioned between the rear bumper and rear axle. Plus, they were also exposed to reduced rear crush space. What's worse, Ford decided against fixing the faulty design because it would cost more than potential lawsuits. Number 3. 1981 to 1988 Cadillac Cimarron. At the time foreign luxury cars were flooding the US market, Cadillac faced mounting losses and had to find a way to reinvent itself as a brand. The decision was to beat the alien invaders at their own game. Sadly, Cadillac pucked the wrong weapon, a badge-engineered Chevrolet Cavalier. The role model was dodgy enough, but Cadillac also had the guts to ask $12,181 for what was essentially a dressed-up $8,137 Chevy Cavalier. Sure, the Cimarron had all the chic of a Cadillac from back in the day: leather seats, power everything, alloy wheels, and other J-car features. Still, it was a weak 88 horsepower compact with a 4-speed manual transmission as standard. You heard me. It had the first 4-cylinder engine in a Cadillac since the onset of World War I. The Cimarron is considered the lowest point in the Cadillac's history. It cost them a large portion of their market share and nearly buried them in the process. Number 4. 1957 to 1991 Tramant. Can you imagine that 4 million of these atrocities were produced? Luckily, only a few have survived to this day, which doesn't come as a surprise considering their terrible build quality. They were made of recycled cotton and wood fibers fused into plastic Duraplast. Even today, we don't know the exact number of Tramants that became prey to pigs with a taste for Duraplast. I'm not joking here. Today, some people make a living by renting these death boxes to unsuspecting tourists and sadly nostalgic former Eastern Bloc comrades. If you burn with the desire to take one of the worst cars of all time for a ride, Berlin, Germany, or Budapest, Hungary is your best bet to do so. For instance, a 24-hour rental in Berlin will cost you $225. That's around $200 more than their market value. Number 5. 1975 to 1981 Triumph TR7. The TR7 is practically a homage to all its predecessors. The model was only a culmination of everything wrong with Triumphs and the British car industry during the 70s. The 2-door coupe's bizarre wedge shape was the least of its problems. The 105 horsepower 4-cylinder engine wasn't up to the task performance or reliability-wise, and its coil spring suspension up front and around the back didn't help it either. But the biggest problem with the TR7 and all British cars of the era was the constant use of Lucas Electronics parts, which to this day are a definition of unreliability and poor build quality. Jokes aside, Brits called the company Lucas Prince of Darkness. Rumors say the company's motto was, "Get home before dark." Number 6. 1998 Present Smart Fortwo. Mercedes-Benz's expectations of the Smart Fortwo were smashed into America's solid standards. Strange, but it had a good start. 38 MEP excellence was a bragging factor in 1998 when it entered the European market. However, a dated interior, polarized styling, barely existing storage space, low reliability scores, and one of the worst transmissions made it one of the unsafest cars. The only positive remarks it has is its gas-friendly features and parking suitability. The good thing is, after my 2019, the Smart Fortwo left the US, making this one of the 7 RTS decisions Mercedes made in recent years. What's more, it failed to utilize any technological advancements compared to other, much older models on the list. The special place in cars hell is reserved for Smart. Number 7. 2000 to 2005 Pontiac Aztec. The Aztec practically signed Pontiac's death contract with a terribly built interior, horrible styling, and bizarre high tag price. The Aztec was considered one of the most horrible cars ever created, but was its negative reputation entirely deserved. Notably, the very first owners of the Pontiac Aztec gave the vehicle highly high marks across the board, except for exterior styling, of course. Sure, the styling was a disaster, coupled with Pontiac's management's greed to sticker the Aztec for much higher than planned. It killed off what could be one of the first American crossovers. But if you can somehow look past the design, you'll see the Aztec for what it was, a versatile crossover with plenty of cargo space, a potent 185 horsepower engine, and a fully independent rear suspension in an optional all-wheel drive layout. Number 8. BMW X6. BMW has made a few missteps over the years. With X6, the German car maker drove off the proverbial cliff. The problem with this car is that people aren't sure what it is. Is it a sport utility vehicle? A luxury car? A weird hybrid? We're not sure. The marketing department gave a blind shot and called it a new class of vehicle, Sports Activity Vehicle, or SAV for short. They claimed that this car was meant to drive like a sedan, but have the grit of an off-road vehicle. Sadly, the public had none of it, and the X6 and SAVs never caught on with buyers. The second generation of this car came at the 2014 Paris Auto Show, and it was a traditional SUV or sport utility vehicle. Will the newest version reverse the fortunes of the X6? Time will tell. Number 9. Hummer H2. Most gearheads consider the Hummer H2 the symbol of everything wrong with the American auto industry, and it's easy to see why. The H2 was designed as the road-legal version of challenging American military vehicles. Still, it ended up being a humongous hunk of metal with an unsightly design and an uncomfortable ride quality. The worst thing about it was its fuel economy. Heian was lucky it didn't have to provide official mech figures for the H2, but several reputable automotive magazines ran tests and returned a meager 10 NUC. A road trip in an H2 was enough to leave the average American bankrupt. Number 10. Chevrolet HHR. Take a look at the utterly disgustingly terrible 2005 to 11 Chevy HHR. It was cheap, cynical plagiarism of the already cheap Chrysler PT Cruiser, with a cut-your-fingers barbed plastic finish in the interior that would make a Yugo feel like a luxury vehicle. The road holding was non-existent, even compared with the PT Cruiser. You may laugh loud when the tires start chirping and complaining as I take regular Cloverleaf Highway exits/entrances at no more than 30 miles per hour. Any more than that, the poor thing would understeer its ugly nose into the grass. Visibility with the tiny windows was a disaster. After all, you wanted to avoid looking at that vomit-inducing interior that you cannot touch because your fingers will bleed. Literally. There was an unfinished plastic barb near the driver mirror adjustment that could happily lodge itself into your finger. It was both unsafe at any speed and garbage at any rate. Easily the worst thing GM produced in the 2000s. Not every car designed, manufactured, and marketed to the public is a winner. An ugly design, bad engineering, or a plain old lemon that turns off consumers. The history of the automobile is littered with some real stinkers over the years. Many are now infamous and forever burned in the collective memories of the public. But what do you consider the worst car ever made? Let me know in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss an upload and you can enjoy the excellent content I send your way.